Well, we're going to talk about accessibility today. Like I said, I appreciate you guys coming out. It's a very important topic, but very boring topic, but it's necessary. So we'll get right to it. I'm Joe Lopresti. I'm from St. Pete Design, St. Pete, Florida, just a few hours south of here. We're a web development company that specializes in accessibility and custom software for WordPress. What we do, we audit, remediate WordPress websites for accessibility compliance. We teach how to get compliant and stay compliant, and we basically just go around America, North America, and give talks. This right here. I'd like to think of myself as an accessibility advocate. Maybe I'll get there one day. Anybody in this accessibility, low vision type of thing usually has a story. It's not just random. Our story was that we got a job for accessibility and we had no idea what that was, but like any good developer, we said yes, and we took the job. And that led us on our path of research. And part of that was we landed in the NFB, National Federation of the Blind Convention, largest convention of blind people in the world, happens to be in Orlando every year, right in our backyard. So we went there, and going there, it was amazing. Just seeing everybody and their struggles and just how they get along with technology. It was amazing. And that's when we decided we need to make sure all of our sites were accessible, and that's where we came up with our little motto, one site at a time. And in that process is really when I learned how difficult rounding up information for this subject was and really honing in on what actually is the requirements. And ever since, we've just been trying to get this info out. So, this is web accessibility made easy for WordPress. All right, in this talk, I'm going to give you some facts and an explanation of Section 508 in WCAG. Then I'm going to offer our 11 easy steps to help you become Section 508 compliant. And then at the end, I'm going to give you a bunch of developer tools and resources that will help you beyond this. Because I only have so much time. I could be here all day talking about this, and it still wouldn't be enough time. So I threw a lot of resources in here that I'm not going to get into super detail with. The reason I did that was so when they put up the slides, you guys will be able to go back there later and do whatever you need to do. All right, a few facts. Over 1 billion people worldwide have some sort of disability. That's a big number. And of that, an estimated 253 million people have some sort of vision impairment, some sort of vision disability. And we bring that down even more. We have 19 million children who are visually impaired, have some sort of vision disability. And the thing that I actually met Matt Mullingweg a few years back, and I had asked him about accessibility, and he brought up a fantastic point I had never thought about before. Every single person in this room was born disabled, and will probably, towards the end of our lives, be disabled. And more than likely, somewhere in between the end and the beginning, we'll be disabled. Break an arm, get in a car wreck, be sick, something. This talk is not just for low vision, not just for handicapped people. Every single one of us will be disabled at some point in our lives. And I don't know why I never thought about that, but that was just a light bulb went on. I was like, wow. All right, a few more facts. There were 814 Section 508 lawsuits in 2017, and there was over 2,200 lawsuits last year. This is just federal lawsuits. And all of the lawsuits last year were filed filed by less than 50 plaintiffs. And I think it was the first 15 or 1,600 were filed by like 28 plaintiffs. I mean, it's just ridiculous. And I have another stat on my other slide that there's a Florida guy that's already gone around this year and sued like 40 cities and counties. They're just going around and just suing counties and cities. And the funny thing is these lawsuits aren't under Section 508. They're being filed under the Title III of the ADA Act, Americans with Disability Act. The Title III Act is basically just saying that every single person, disabled, not disabled, has to have the same access to everything as an average, I don't want to say normal, but as an abled person has to. Basically the blue parking spots, the ramps going up the buildings, the wide bathrooms, all of that is Title III. That's all ADA. And what's happening is that Title III is now moving to the digital the digital realm. So Title III basically says that everybody, even low vision individuals, have to have access to every aspect of your website. All right, here's a little graph. You can see the web accessibility. I mean, it's just to show you 2015. I don't have the stat. I think it was like 50 or 80 or something. You could just see the exponential growth. And for 2019, we're already up in this area. So it's just grown. It's going crazy. All right. When your clients ask, what is web accessibility? My GIFs are not working. That's unfortunate, because this is amazing. You just gotta have to take my word for it. All right, what is WCAG 2.1 in section 508? WCAG is the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, and 2.1 is the latest version. And it's basically just what it says, the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines. It's the worldwide guidelines that they put out, and they put them in 3 different levels: A, AA, AAA. AAA is basically, is very hard to comply with. So they say level A and AA is really where you want to be. Section 508, it's ADA Section 508. They say that you got to be WCAG A and AA. And Section 508 is the American version. Every government agency, everybody doing business with government agencies, everybody who has a nonprofit, even if you do not accept funds from the government, you have to be Section 508. To even put a bid for any kind of government contract, you sign a paper saying your website is Section 508 compliant. It's the law. All right, this WCAG basically takes care of 4 main ideas. You got perceivable, has to do with text alternatives, media, adaptable, distinguishable. You got operable, keyboard accessible. You got to be able to navigate your site without your mouse. Time limits or don't have any. Seizures, things flashing, I think more than 3 times per second. Navigable, make sure your whole site's navigable. Understandable, make sure it's readable. Make sure as they're navigating through, it's in a predictable manner. Make sure it works with input assistance, other devices that they can plug into the computer to help them. And then robust. Make sure it's compatible with lots of assistive technology. And for years to come. Don't just think about today. Think about years from now. Because remember, we all will be disabled at some point. So think about it as if you're doing it for yourself. All right. Why does Section 508 exist? This is why. Because no matter how much time you spend on your website, we all get in fights with our clients over this exact font that they want, this exact shade of purple that they need. All of that's irrelevant, because anybody with a low vision disability, this is how they see your site. So what we've done is we've come up with 11 easy steps. And I'll go through and I'll explain each one of these, but this is great picture material if anybody's interested. I do want to say with these 11 points, you could follow every single word I got in here and you're still not compliant. You still possibly could not be compliant. This does not cover everything. This is what I believe as developers, if we add to our process of building websites, we'll just build our websites compliant. This will cover the majority of websites, but there's lots of variables and stuff. Okay, provide alternative text for non-text content. I'm so disappointed my GIFs don't work. This one was amazing. I don't know if you guys have seen this. It's just great. Nobody wants to provide alternative text. It just sucks. You want to upload your photo and you want to slap it on the front of your site and just keep it moving. But don't do that. Add alternative text. Okay, just do it. And imagine this guy going, "Just do it." That's what I want you to think when you're uploading your media files. Here's an example. You just upload your picture, and then you got your alt text right here. You just want to describe it. And here it says a picture of a device that allows you to see with your tongue. This is from the NFB. I went one year, and that's a real product. Just a close-up picture here. Very simple. And then Gutenberg allows you to choose to choose that your picture is decorative. And when you choose your picture as decorative, the screen reader just runs right over it. It doesn't even acknowledge that it exists, which is good, because if there's no information for you or anything, yes?
I'm sorry to interrupt, but if you put in the alt text, will that also show up as the description underneath?
No, that'll be the caption.
And is it possible if you put in a description for a screen reader to pick up that rather than having to fill out the alt text and the description?
No, you need the alt tag. The alt tag, the alternative text, is the actual law. What I've always done is I put the alt text in there, and then I'll copy paste, put it in a description, because I've always felt descriptions for Google. That tells Google what that picture is about. So that's what I do. I write a good descriptive alt text, and then I copy paste that into my description. And the recommendations, they say less than 200 characters, because, you know, with all the pictures on a site, you can just imagine that process. So I generally say a good sentence or two. You can also put in there, if you're in the back, you can also put a null tag in there. But in my opinion, either alt tag or with Gutenberg, get it as decorative. All right, number 2, label your form elements. This is pretty simple. Everybody's, I'm sure, has got some sort of contact form on their site. You just got to label them: first name, last name. Label all your form elements. If you use contact form 7, they generally come with your label forms already labeled. But if you're adding new fields, a lot of times they won't automatically add that. So you just go in there and label them yourself. And that's basically what it looks like. You got to do it yourself. All right. Add manuscript or closed captions for videos, and add a audio description for animation. An example of closed captions. It's my mug on YouTube. How many people here used YouTube to upload a video? Okay, so we know it's pretty easy. You upload your video, it gives you a little code, you put it on the back of your site, and you're good to go. But when you're on the back of your YouTube video manager, when you're editing, you can click the subtitles or CC button, and YouTube will actually allow you to either have them automatically add your subtitles. It allows you to type in with the manuscript as the video is playing. It also allows you to open up the front of your video to individuals watching it, to allow them to chime in and actually do the manuscript for you. And then you can yay or nay it. But YouTube makes it very easy. And one thing I've learned through this process is that low vision individuals love YouTube. They get a lot of their information from YouTube. They spend a lot of time here, and from what I hear, it's because YouTube makes it so easy for them. Yes?
Is YouTube's auto-generated subtitles sufficient enough?
Yes. Yeah. They're pretty good. It's not perfect.
Well,
it's definitely not
I know
perfect.
they're not perfect, but like, is it sufficient from more of a compliance perspective?
Yes. Yep.
Even though it's not perfect, at least you're getting the core.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
I would put it at about 90%. You know, there's always going to be, especially if you're muffled, not using a good mic, or how you're recording, you know, the better quality your sound is, the better they'll be able to do it. And there are other companies, like Amazon does stuff like that for very cheap, but YouTube does it free.
So all you
Yes.
do is press the CC button and it automatically adds that? No.
No, this is a finished product. This is after I uploaded my video, and I'm in my video editor, and there's a button that I believe it says subtitles /CC. You hit that, and that'll give you your options. It'll ask you what language you want it in, and then depending on the size of the video, YouTube could instantly have your CCs, or it could take up to 24 hours. I think if your video is more than 10 minutes, they say it could be up to 24 hours. But once they do that, what happens is this CC button pops up on the front now, and then an individual can navigate to that and turn that on and off.
Question.
Yes.
When you hit the subtitle and CC button on your website, and then you hit this CC button, does it take the audio that's in your video and automatically make the closed captioning?
Yeah, on the back end when you're doing your editing, video editing with your stuff like that, yes. It takes the audio and automatically adds
Okay.
the closed captionings, yes.
So that is pretty good.
Yeah, and you know that's why it's been very consistent. Every low vision person I've ran into that I've met has said the same thing. YouTube is their most traveled to website, and the reason is not just for this obviously, but because they get so much information, it's so easy for them to navigate. All right, on the flip side of this, you got to have an audio description for animations that don't really have audio describing that. Good example of this is I turned this into a shortcode. This is The Lion King. This lady's just a 2-minute video. She's just giving an example of what it looks like for an audio description. And I don't think we have audio in this room.
Your own computer speaker would be it. It's VGA, so it should come out your computer speakers.
You guys just bear with me 1 second. Let me see if I can do this. I've never been able to get this live. We're gonna give it a shot here. No, you can't hear that. I mean, I don't know if that helped you guys at all.
Yeah,
But it's just descriptive.
Yeah.
And you know, there's no audio there describing what's happening right there. So a low vision individual is not fully comprehending what's happening. So it's just a very simple thing, just describing that. All right, number 4, ensure color contrast meets minimum thresholds. This is another very easy one. What are our minimum thresholds? They are 4.5 to 1, with the exception of links and text. They can be 3 to 1. This is an example of bad contrast. It's terrible. And we're dealing with a couple different problems here. Down here, you can obviously not see them. Right here, if I focus on this, it makes my eyes twitch. So we're dealing with not just low vision, but other things here. So it's very important. Like if I stare at this long enough, it just starts flicking all over the place. This is good contrast. You know, and it just makes sense too, to have your site with good contrast. You can imagine someone staring at this, they're gonna get about 30 seconds on your site and then they're out of here. You know, this will more than likely help, you know, they'll stay longer. All right, number 5, make all your links text descriptive and underline them. What do you mean by that? For a bad example of link text, click here, read more. How many people have here used click here and read more? Anybody who didn't raise their hand? Lying.
Yeah.
I did this forever. This is what everybody does. This is how you learn. Click here. It's very simple, right? For an example of a good link description, follow this link to Wikipedia. Now they know when they click this link, they're going to Wikipedia. You gotta understand how a screen reader works. A lot of time, a low vision individual can set their screen readers up to just run headers, to just run links. They can set it up, just have a list of links. So if you have a whole bunch of links in a row that just say click here, read more, click here, read more, there's absolutely no context clues there. There's nothing. So that individual does not know where that link is taking them. But if you have a whole bunch of descriptive links, then they know where those links are going. Yes? In the back?
On my website, I have a whole bunch of little stories. Each one has a title, and then it gives blurb, and then read more. So
You
in that
fail.
case, you already have the
That's fair.
title. Still read more would not be okay with it.
Correct.
You have to say.
I would say read more about whatever your title says. And make, you know, I like making my links 3, 4, 5 words long. So now that person knows they're gonna read more about this subject. Because again, when they're using their screen readers, they don't, a lot of them don't see your content. Even if it's just set up for have a list of links, usually when they navigate, they're just navigating by headers and by links, and that's it. They're not worrying with context until they get to an area that they wanna read, then they'll hit enter and it'll go to the body. But generally, they just use headers and links. All right, number 6. The color of any given content cannot be the only, let me go back one here. Underline them. If you notice, these are underlined, because another thing is this, I'll get just a couple steps forward. you gotta have more than one way to recognize something than color. Color cannot be your only meaning of communication. So, you know, we all know that they're blue links. So when someone hovers over them with a link, if you're colorblind, you're not gonna notice that that's a link. So when you hover over with a mouse, you want a little underline to pop up. Yes?
What about with bolding?
Or you can have it get bolder. You gotta have a secondary way of that individual knowing that's a link besides just color. I do underlines, you can bold, something that shows them this is a link. All right, the color of any given content cannot be the only indication of meaning. Okay, what's the next one? This kind of falls into that one. We're just talking about underlines. Okay, example, using color to convey meaning for input fields. This is the incorrect version. And this is why, because this is how the screen reader is going to read this. You can just close your eyes and follow me here. Required fields are in red, name and email. Does that tell you which one is required?
No.
That doesn't tell you nothing. So what you want to do is come over here and say required fields are in red and marked with an asterisk. Name, email, asterisk. Now if your eyes are closed, you know your email is your required field. Okay, another example, which is the right angle triangle. So now an individual looking at this, if they're colorblind, now keep in mind, I think it's like 9% of men become colorblind, something like that. I mean, it's a very common issue. So these are common problems here. If we're colorblind, you're not going to know which one of these triangles is the right angle. Very simple solution, simply add some numbers that correlate with the color. So an individual, which is the right angle triangle, will be able to know number one, come over here, find number one, you can mark this. They are not reliant on the color green. All right, one of the easiest ones we can deal with here. Make sure your font size is at least 16 pixels and is still properly spaced when enlarged by 200%. That's a big one. It's very, it's very easy. You just gotta do it. My little GIF here would have been amazing. All right, number 8, error handling. If there is an input error by the user, it must be identified and described in the text explaining the error. What do I mean by that? Right here, this is another typical contact form, and I just went in and we could see that this is it's got little asterisks. That's required. So I went in and I did a couple of these, but then I left these blank and hit enter. I put the red box around there, so you don't need that. But this contact form popped up and said, please review the errors. It highlights your box, and right underneath this is title is required. So now I know where I made my mistakes, and I can go in and fix those. All right, tab navigation. Your entire website should be able to be navigated by using only your keyboard. And do not ignore the focus stay. This is a common problem. Okay, so what I mean by this, basically if you go to a website, and before you hit anything, if you hit the tab button, let's start here. Your entire website should be able to be navigated by using only your keyboard. I suggest everybody take a little bit of time, maybe an hour out of your day one time, take your keyboard, throw it in the drawer. Go to your site and try to navigate your site without your keyboard. You'll find a lot of issues that way. So tab navigation, if you go to your website, before you hit anything, if you hit the tab button, what will happen generally is your URL will light up. And then, as you're hitting the tab button, and this has to do with what we talked about first with your site being a predictable order, and as you're hitting your tab button, you can light up here, and your tabs should go left to right, all the way down, like this. All the way down. If your site starts up here, comes down here, you hit the tab button, you're back up here, hit the tab button, you're down here, and then you're over here, you're failing. It's an absolute fail. It has to be in a predictable manner. It has to be. And this has a lot to do with our headers and stuff. Properly using your H1, H2 tags and stuff. They have to be in descending order. H1s, H2s, H3s, H4s, they have to be in descending order. Unless, the only time they don't have to be in descending order is to say if you have an H2, let's just say number 8 is an H2, and then, or an H3, I'm sorry, and then number 9 is an H2. Okay? The only way that would be compliant is if my My H3, number 8, was closing the previous content, and my H2 was opening the next content. So then at that point, it makes sense why I would have an H3 here and an H2 here. That's the only time your headers can be like that. Otherwise, your headers need to be in descending order. And don't ignore the focus state. As you're navigating your website and hitting the tab button, you'll notice some things light up, some things won't light up. And when you turn on screen readers, that helps things light up. But you have to have a focus state. Basically what that means is when an individual is tab navigating, if they're landing on, let's say I want to highlight 11 easy steps continue. If I don't have anything that's showing I'm focused on this, that's a fail. You can make your text bolder, I like putting a box around it. I got a little example in a couple of slides here I'll show you, but you gotta make sure your focus state is there. That tells people when they're landing on something, they know where they are. Because typically we have a mouse cursor, then we can see where our mouse is when it's hovered over something that's larger. But when you're just tab navigating, it's much more difficult to find out where you are. All right, number 10. You must offer flexible time limits, if any, associated with websites or software. Now I kind of talk out of both sides of my face on this one because I'll give a security talk for WordPress, and I say log out idle users. You have to. But then on this talk I say don't log out idle users. So we all know that, like pertinent information, credit card, banks, things like that. You got to log out idle users. You just have to. So if there's situations where you have to have a time limit, you got to make it real easy for the individual to get more time. I like to put a big button that pops up that says, and it'll announce to the individual, you're about to run out of time. You've got whatever, 60 seconds. If you need more time, click this button. And then when that button pops up, it's already focus state on there. So as the screen reader is reading them, all they got to do is hit enter and they'll get more time. You can set it for a minute, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever you want. But if you have to have a time limit, make it very easy for them to get more. You can imagine how frustrating it would be to navigate a whole site, being low vision. We can look at a site and be like, this is what I want, move on. But it takes an individual much longer to navigate that. And imagine if you're deep into this site, you're almost to where you want to be, and it cuts out on you because you haven't touched anything in a while. Because when they're navigating, a lot of times they'll just let their screen reader read to them. The screen reader, you get to a page and it just starts reading. However their settings are set up, whether links or headers, it starts reading. So there's not much interaction. So they could go a while without touching a button. All right, number 11, we're getting there. Provide skip navigation links so that users can skip repetitive content such as nav menus, widgets, etc. Now how many people are developers in here or designers? All right, so we all love our nav menus. I mean, they're your blueprint of your entire website, and they're on every single page you go to. And a lot of us, the larger sites, got big nav menus, drop-down windows with 10 pages on each one. The problem with that is we don't realize, as sighted individuals, that a low-vision individual, every page they go to on your site, they got to navigate that menu. They got to hit tab 1,000 times to get through all the drop down and everything just before they get to their content. So what you want to do is provide a skip link. Basically, same thing, you go to your page, you hit tab, your URL should light up. The second thing that lights up when you hit your tab button should be a skip link. Let me give you an example of that. Right there. This was the second time I hit tab on this website. The first time it lit up the URL, the second time it went straight to this. Now this is not visible on their site unless you're tabbing. So the average person will never know that's even there. That is not there. And you hit tab, and anybody can go to their site and check it out. You hit tab, and it pops up. And now take a step back too. If you notice this blue line around here, that's your focus state. That tells an individual that that's where you're at. I mean, obviously, it isn't there prior to that, but in all of these are elements are all able to be interacted with. So every time you're hitting a tab button that lands on you, you want some sort of tab focus popping up. But anyways, skip the content. What that'll do is skip the content. That'll skip all this mess, and it'll usually bring it right down to the body. It'll skip your big hero image. Usually if you have a couple other stuff down here, it'll skip right to your main body of content. It's very useful. Because remember, every page that person goes to, they've got to navigate, through all of this. And these are all drop-down large, large drop-down menus that person's got to sit there and tab through. Very irritating. I've tried it. Okay, most sites have skip links nowadays. Most themes do. But I'm sure we all have that client that just doesn't want to upgrade to a new theme, that doesn't want to do anything new. So in that case, you can go to your plugins, WordPress Accessibility plugin. This is not our plugin. We got nothing to do with this plugin at all. This is just a good plugin. And the very first thing is enable skip links. You can also skip links always visible. I leave that off because that skip link, basically that'll just make this skip link always there. So I just leave that off, and so when someone's actually tabbing, then they'll find it. Very, very easy. Okay, that was our 11 steps. I still got a little more information to give you guys, but that was our 1 through 11. And like I said before, please keep in mind, you could do all of this and there's still a chance you're not compliant. So you just want to keep that in mind. This will fix the majority of your problems, especially on smaller sites, like 10, 15 page site with nothing fantastic. This will fix the majority of problems. And in my opinion, when they're out looking for lawsuits, they're going to skip right over you because you're already way ahead of the majority of the website. If you can do these things, you might not be 100% Section 508 compliant, but you're in the top 10% of the internet, as far as I'm concerned, of accessibility. Another missed opportunity. Okay, here we go. Here's some free accessibility testing tools. Everything I'm offering you here is completely free, not freemium, nothing. It's completely free. These three right here, when you're testing sites, you're going to use there's automated tools, but there's no such thing as a silver bullet as an automated tool that's going to give you everything that you need. And the fact is, most of them suck, give you tons of false positives, don't catch a lot of the stuff, and so you got to come in and you got to do all your manual testing. So don't ride or die with these testing tools, I guess is my point. Axe Chrome, very useful, one of my favorite ones. The reason is this is known to not give false positives. They err on the side of caution. So if they're not 100% sure that's a failing element, they're not going to bother telling you. So that's usually the first one I run. Then you come in with Wave. They give you a ton of false positives, but they're very good for your headers. They'll have your page and they'll show all of your headers, and you'll be able to see whether they're in order or not. Google Lighthouse. And Google Lighthouse and Axe Chrome are in like your inspection tools. I use Google Chrome, so if you're on a website, you right click, you go to inspect, and then you know how like the right side of your screen pops up. You go in there and that's where that stuff is. Wave, you just go to their site. You can add that to your Chrome extensions, or you can just go to their site, type in your URL. Google Lighthouse, they do a pretty good job. They give you a 1 through 100 score, which I like because clients like to see how they're scoring. It's just a visual. But the cool thing about Google Lighthouse is they give you a 11-step manual testing process, which is a great starting point. Doesn't cover everything, but it's a great starting point. So that's actually my favorite part of Google Lighthouse. Contrast ratio checker. I just put this link here. This is where it's at. It's great. You put in your contrast rate, your colors, and it shows you and it tells you whether you're passing, failing. It's very, very useful. WordPress Accessibility Tools and Alt Text Finder. This is our plugin. It is completely free, not freemium. Will always be free. And basically what I'm doing is as I'm going through doing all my accessibility stuff, living my life, when I find very useful tools, I'm slapping them in there. I'm just trying to help. That's all I'm doing. So in this plugin, we got an Alt Text Finder, which is very useful. This, if anybody knows, if you put your image on the front of your site, if you go to the front of your site and grab that image and add an alt tag, that does not add the alt tag to your picture in the media, and that does not add the alt tag to that picture anywhere else on your website. So once you put your photos in your site and start putting them on your pages, it's very difficult to pull those in and add alt tag. So what I've done is that inside this plugin, it just brings all of your pictures in the back end and front end together, and you can click a button and it'll categorize them as missing alt tags at the top, and you'll have your picture and your alt tag input field, and you'll just boom, 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 down the field, hit enter, and it pushes it out there. So it's very useful. It also has, I also included the totally testing software from the University. It's very useful. It's another testing tool that we use. It's got actually pretty much this contrast ratio checker. That was the best one I've ever used in there. And then I also give you an interactive WCAG 2.1 checklist. So, okay, user weight dive order. If there's anything I can get you guys to do, it's to go home, put this plugin on your website. What this does is this puts a little icon on the front of your site and allows users to fix contrast ratio, enlarge text, hyperlinks, all kinds of stuff. If you go to, you go to my website, St. Pete Design, STPETE design.com, and on the bottom left-hand corner, we have this plugin. So it's just a little piece of CSS down there. When someone clicks it, a menu pops up. Accessibility statement generator. Everybody needs to do this whether you're accessible or not. This is a short code, but it's actually to the W3C. There's lots of accessibility statements out there. Everybody's trying to copy. Go to the original, go to the real one, W3C. That's the government. That's the real one. NVDA, it's a screen reader. Check it out. Chromevox is a screen reader. Check it out. This is a good way to check when you're doing your manual testing on your sites. You have to do this. Here's a bunch of resources. Here's the actual guidelines. Here's the DOJ withdrawing, list of lawsuits. This is the actual law for government agencies that have to be compliant. And they have these slides, so you'll be able to get all this stuff here. I'm kind of blowing through here at the end. Another missed opportunity. Questions? That's pretty much it. You got any questions? Yes.
Not really a question, but I used to work for a company where our clients were like some national, I won't mention who they got hit with ADA lawsuits.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of them just settled.
Mm-hmm.
But what we do now is like we went through a process of getting everything over time, all our websites ADA compliant, and then we also add in our privacy policy a section that we are ADA compliant, but if you see anything, please give us time.
That's the accessibility statement generator from W3C. It asks you a bunch of questions. You give them who your contact info is. Yeah, if there's any problems, contact us. Gives you a link. You put it in your footer. If there's any problems, someone contact you. Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
Two quick questions, hopefully. First question is, you went through the 11 steps and you talked about things like font size and contrast and that sort of thing. How do these things like user way and WP accessibility, those one button kind of change the CSS? Does that actually kind of make it accessible instantly, or do you still have to?
Somewhat. No, it does not cover all accessibility issues. It's more about, my vision is not so much about lawsuit prevention, it's more about helping the end user. And this really helps the end user because they can click it, and if they need to, they make their font bigger. It'll fix contract ratios. It'll make it hyperlinked, so it's just all links.
So it'll make it accessible.
It makes it more accessible. It's not a one-stop shop. There's no such thing.
Giving them some control over it.
Yes, it's giving them options.
Control and everything.
Yes.
Second question is, your website, I'm guessing uses Elementor?
No.
No.
Mine?
All right.
No.
Okay, it just has some.
It's
some
Visual
things like
Composer.
that.
It's a page builder.
Gotcha. How have you had
They're
experience
terrible.
with each of those in terms of accessibility?
They're terrible.
Okay.
They're terrible. When I build, generally, we don't do websites, we do accessibility, but when we do get websites, we try to make them very simple, and we just make them out of the box. There are ways to work with page builders. I have a big list for my developers on how to work with it, things they have to do. It is possible, it's just more of a hassle, that's all.
Okay, thanks.
We're down to our last minute or two. Any last minute questions?
What about CAPTCHA? How does that work with?
I don't use CAPTCHA because it's difficult. I believe they came out with a new one or something. Do you have something for CAPTCHA?
Yeah, I tried to do research on that for our sites. From what I understand from my research, the newest Google CAPTCHA is
Compliant.
more compliant than the
Yeah, the newest
the
one.
cap to
They
the
just came out a few months ago or something. Other than that, that was a big pain in the butt. Any other
I'm
questions?
so grateful that I got up early on a Sunday.
I will be in the whatever they call it right over here. So if you have any questions, please come email me, get a card. I love helping. This is how I continue to learn, is getting in this shit with you guys and figuring out together. So please call me. Yes.
I just need a link. One more.
So are you putting up
3 slides.
You put the
There you
slides
go.
online?
Yeah, I sent it to them. I'm not sure where they put it. If you go to my website, I have a talks up in my amazing map menu. It's got all my talks, and it's got this whole talk on there, so you can check it out at any time.
Also,
So happy.
for any conversation, any
There.
talk happening on any of these
The other way.
rooms, these are all being
No, yeah.
recorded every time, and they're gonna be mirrored with their slide deck to put on WordPress in about 1 or 2 months.
Oh, awesome.
It takes a little time to go through like 50 videos.
So this big, that's,